Welcome r/Prorevenge. Try to steal our $400 security deposit by being a dick. Fine, now you can pay us $1,300. So this story takes place like 5 years ago, when my husband and I were broke college students with a young baby. We worked hard to afford our shitty little duplex, $600 a month, and necessities, while trying to finish our degrees to one day get ahead. Our duplex was one in an entire neighborhood, owned by a large company, and managed by a super sketchy married couple who lived on the same street. Before our kid was born, we did the normal excited new parent thing of painting his nursery and decorating, blah blah. Our lease stated we needed permission to paint, which we obtained from the property manager, the husband of the couple. He insisted it would be fine, and, being young and naive, we didn't get it in writing, because he was so chill about it. So we paint, and move on with our lives. A little while later our lease was up, and we had given notice to the kid as we were moving closer to my husband's school. The property manager was understanding, everything was fine, and we scheduled our move out inspection. Prior to this inspection, we specifically asked him for the name of the paint color we needed to use when repainting the nursery. He flat out refused to give it, saying it was unnecessary to paint as we'd been there so long they'd be painting the whole duplex anyway. Okay, cool. Move out inspection day comes and goes. We left the house in better shape than we found it, aside from a small area of torn carpet right along a seam in a doorway. The property manager inspected and said everything looked great and we should get our whole deposit, $400, back minus a few bucks for the torn carpet. Sounds good, boss. Enter a period of weeks where we waited and waited for our deposit, eventually leaving messages upon messages with false promises on no return calls at all. Eventually, over a month later, this culminated in a phone call with the property manager where he said, and I remember this almost verbatim, "I don't know what you're so worried about anyway. It's only like $200 you're getting back." He cited the painted nursery and the huge mess left behind as deductions, and I coldly informed him we'd be going to court then, because we didn't feel we owed for those reasons. The place was spotless when we left aside from the 6-pack of beer we left him in the fridge for being chill. Not 1 hour later, he called back and miraculously our refund check had just shown up in the mail. Already knowing he was trying to fuck us, we installed a recording app on my phone, one-party consent state, and went to the office. The check indeed was only for $200 of our deposit, and included no list of what they charged us for. Important detail. We intentionally goaded him into admitting that he had told us not to paint, and that the house looked great on move out, and went on our happy way, revenge plan already unfolding. We didn't cash the check and instead emailed the CEO of the entire property company, copying in the property manager, and detailing the entire process. The CEO sent back a smartass email with a cute little typed up list of deductions, including all the things we were specifically told we wouldn't be on the hook for. A fun detail was that even by his own math they owed us $230 of our deposit. No one really had an answer for why they then tried to issue a check for $200, but whatever. Joke was on him, because we began digging through all the state regulations on security deposits and refunds, hoping to prove that our length of stay meant he couldn't charge us for wear and tear things like carpet cleaning, etc. And in our search, we instead happened upon a statute requiring landlords to return security deposit refunds and an itemized list of deductions within 30 days, or lose the right to withhold for actual damages, and be subject to treble damages, if the landlord is thought to be maliciously withholding the refund. So we typed up a demand letter for our entire security deposit, citing the statute, which he had broken, because we didn't receive any refund offer or itemized list until 6 weekends later. And when he sent a smartass reply, we filed in small claims court for our entire deposit plus treble damages and court costs. Now, I don't know if it's clear at this point, but I can be really fucking petty if I feel like someone is trying to fuck with me. And it was clear this guy made a career out of stealing money from low-income renters who likely could never afford to fight it. I was pissed. I spent the next month before our court date compiling all email correspondence, in which he'd fucked himself over numerous times by providing written documentation that he exceeded time limits, charged incorrect amounts, etc. I also compiled phone records showing dozens upon dozens of unanswered and unreturned calls to the property manager and detailed accounts I'd made immediately after hanging up of lies from the property manager. I printed out a screenshot from the company's own website detailing the CEO's role as the legal advisor, so I could innocently claim, shouldn't he have known the statutes for these issues? I printed all the relevant statutes and highlighted the important parts. And then I made 3 fucking copies of everything and nicely compiled each in a binder complete with sleeve protectors and page numbers. One for our own reference, one for the asshole property manager and or CEO, we weren't sure who would show up, and one for the judge himself. We also took our handy little recording of the property manager admitting to all the shit he lied about and then pretended to have never said. Needless to say, the judge laughed at how prepared we were, asked if we were law students, and then awarded us treble damages and court fees as well as interest. I will never forget the CEO's face when we looked over and smiled at him. All his asshole emails and disregard for the law were on the table, and, rather than giving us the original $350 or so we were promised from our deposit, he ended up paying us over $1,300 a month later. It was glorious. Oh shit, edit, I completely forgot until my husband and I were just laughing hysterically about this, but the CEO also filed his response to our suit with a counterclaim for $1,225 for expenses incurred as a result of the actions of plaintiff. He never really said how he got to that number, but in his last email before we sued, he did say, "I hope we can avoid litigation in this matter, but we will engage aggressively if forced to do so. Lol." Same thing happened to us. We had the move-in condition list that the screen was ripped and the carpet was in poor shape plus receipts of 2 additional times asking them to repair the screen. Upon move out we had a professional cleaner, relative, who helped us clean plus we took photos of everything pre-move in and post-move out. This shit religious older couple, the praise Jesus types with religious iconography all over the office walls, managed the place. We went ballistic when they refused to give us our full deposit back. We took a drive to the property's owner's corporate office and showed them everything. They started an investigation and found they had been ripping everyone off, not doing the required repairs, and pocketing the deposits. Mr. and Mrs. Jesus Freaks were sentenced to 10 years in state prison. Fight back and always take photos. A lot milder thing happened to me. I was renting a room in a student house. After moving out I was assured that the deposit will be transferred straight to my bank account within 2 weeks. A month later it still wasn't there, so I started calling and messaging the landlord. He'd answer at first, say that I'll get it tomorrow or something, and then nothing would happen. Eventually he stopped answering my calls. I messaged him once more and said that I would really like to sort this out without involving the police. Bam, money in my account the next day. Landlords. I've been renting in various locations for 15 years, and I've dealt with all types. Good ones, bad ones, absent ones, indifferent ones. None were as bad as the one I had when I lived in Minnesota for a year. It started off great. She was responsive to calls and emails, polite, and willing to fix everything with short turnaround. I was paying $1,600 a month with a $1,600 security deposit. I initially signed a 6-month lease, then extended for another year in September. In May of the following year, a tree fell on our house. It was gigantic. It fell from the yard 2 houses down, draped across our next door neighbor's lawn and completely destroyed our lawn, damaged our detached garage, and left an 8-foot hole in the roof above our kitchen, with branches coming clear through the ceiling and onto our kitchen table. Initially, the landlord was very responsive. She had someone out from her insurance agency the next day, and someone came to clear the tree and tarp over the hole immediately. That's when the fun began. We still had a giant hole in our kitchen. The bugs were fantastic. By the way, the fence in the backyard was destroyed. One of the major reasons I rented that place was so I could let my dog out the back door. The garage had no power. Tree took down the lines, and there were live exposed wires draping over our kitchen table. A few days pass, and I call the landlord to find out what's going on with the repairs. She said the company is extremely busy as many houses were damaged in the storm, but they'd be out to fix everything the following week. Okay, that's fine. We can deal with it for another week. The week passes, and I receive no notice that the contractors will be coming by. I call again, and she says the insurance company is deciding how much to pay out. She'll send the contractor out as soon as she can. They finally come out 3 weeks later and put a piece of plywood over the hole in the roof, and that's it. No repair of the ceiling, fence, or garage. I call again. She's still wrestling with the insurance agency. That's fine, I say, but we need a roof, and a garage, and a fence. She says there's nothing she can do. Bullshit. She can fix it and get paid later. Thus begins a 4-month battle to get our place livable again. After 2 months, she stopped answering my calls or emails. After 3, I began the process of filing to break the lease due to extenuating circumstances. I got a city inspector to come look at the house and agree that it was completely unacceptable that it hadn't been repaired. I passed that along to her and received the only message I'd get over the entire battle until the end. Sorry to see you go, but I understand. I move out after 4 months, send along my new address so she can mail the security deposit, and wait. Nothing after the 30-day limit. Nothing after a month and a half. I call and email asking if there's an issue. No response. I've done my research and Minnesota is also a treble damages state, so I begin the process of discussing my options with a lawyer. Minneapolis has a free tenant hotline, which was super helpful. So I contact a lawyer through the hotline, and lo, she doesn't even have a rental license for the property. The lawyer informs me that not only can I seek triple the security deposit, $4,800, if I want to, I can sue her for any rent paid over the duration of the lease. I calculated that out to be $20K including the deposit. I sent a single email to her outlining exactly what the ramifications would be if she didn't return the deposit immediately. Along with half of the rent paid during the 4 months, there was a gaping hole in the roof. I specified that I'd be taking her to court for the full amount of rent paid, as well as triple the security deposit. She put a check in the mail for $4,800 that evening. I didn't mention to her that she'd be receiving a huge fine from the city for even renting the property in the first place. I'm sure that was a pleasant surprise when this was all said and done. Anyway, yay, predatory landlords are the worst.